Well,
Well,
KSR's Jack Pilgrim here for, I don't even know. I'm speechless. It's the one outcome that couldn't happen. We're here. I'm in John Calipari's seat. Actually, we're on the Kentucky bench where we just saw live from Mizzou Arena an absolute dog walking, an absolute bloodletting, a massacre. Kentucky, not on the distributing end, but on the receiving end against the Missouri Tigers. Something that Stephen, I personally did not envision happening. I don't think anybody envisioned this happening. I could have seen a loss, but for Kentucky to come in with zero intensity, zero effort, zero passion, all of the questions that we had about this team going in, just absolutely emphasized, magnified, whatever you want to call it. I'm just left speechless.
I kind of thought, we talked about it on the way up here on the Sources Say podcast about how we actually may have expected Kentucky to be on that side of things, flirting with a 20-point win, a 20-point lead cut down to 14, but in control. From the very beginning, it was very much not the case. I mean, Kentucky got down big early and was I was thinking the same thing, like this is another game where it feels like this could get away from them. And it did. I mean, there was a chance in the second half. They got it down to, 9, I think, trying to feed the post. Lance Ware loses it. They come down, hit a 3. I mean, I don't know. We talked just before we went on. Kentucky hasn't won a big game this year in the United States.
No Power 5 wins in the United States.
Yeah, and it's just rough. I mean, Missouri played well. They're 12-1 now?
Now, yes.
They're going to be ranked. That's 2 ranked wins for them in back-to-back games. They shot the ball really well. I love their style, honestly. I tell you what, I love Kobe Brown. I would love it if Kentucky had a player like Kobe Brown who he was playing the 5, stepping out and hitting threes. He plays a 3 in Kentucky's system.
You know what's interesting? Kentucky had one of those on its roster last season. His name was Bryce Hopkins. He's just doing the same thing at Providence now, exactly what Kobe Brown is doing every single night. SEC Player of the Year, dropped 30 on Kentucky's head, and now Kentucky's version of that is now playing for Ed Cooley at Providence.
Yeah, and that's also frustrating. But I mean, this is the way that I don't know that Calipari's had a player like that has that freedom to play the 4 or the 5 and step out and shoot threes. Terrence Jones did shoot some threes. Yeah. Josh Harrelson shot some threes in that 2011 team. But Kobe Brown's game, I mean, it's just like, that's modern basketball. Mm-hmm. That's the modern game. That when you have your 5 who, they have the freedom to shoot the ball. Now, I know Cal said that Missouri did grind it. He said something like they did what we try to do, and that's grind the game, take shots late in the shot clock in the second half after they had a big lead, look for some back doors. I'll tell you what, Jack, I saw them coming down the floor and just jacking threes in the second half. I mean, they coming off turnovers, just let it fly. They were playing loose. They were having fun. I look over in this bench, and these guys are sullen.
Miserable.
So, I mean, it's a melancholic group right now. They did the 2-minute little press briefing at the end of the game. And Oscar, I thought, I mean, you asked him a question about team chemistry. He gave a very simple yet profound answer. He just said, no.
I said, is team chemistry where it needs to be right now? Do you think the body language is an issue? Because, I mean, you saw Jacob Toppin sulking on the bench. Yeah. I mean, just terrible face. It looked miserable out there. I mean, it's gotten to the point where he's unplayable on the floor, but if he's that much of a distraction off the floor, I think Kentucky has deeper issues. And that's a different issue in itself, and we'll definitely talk about that here in a second. But this was a game that I thought Kentucky wanted this type of game. They wanted the free-flowing run and gun Alabama type of style where it's, they get a ton of shots up and it turns into a track meet, because Kentucky has the athletes. They have the size and the length and the speed to complement that and use that to their advantage, where they're going to make shots on their end, and their defense has been elite this season. Say what you want about the offense, it's been terrible, but the defense has always been there. So you could rely on the defense to hold up its end of the bargain on that end of the floor and make enough shots on the other end, because Missouri's defense is not that good. I still, as of this 89-75 victory or loss, I still right now don't think Missouri's defense is anything special. Kentucky got open shots. They got
wide open looks, especially in the first half. And that we talked about that at halftime. I said, Calipari's system, or people say they need an offensive coordinator. They did have wide open looks. So, whatever offense they were running, they had wide open looks. You couldn't get more wide open. You don't get those kind of open looks in pickup games sometimes that they were getting. I mean, set your feet wide open, take your time, and brick. Reeves took 2 in a row, and I want him shooting. I want him shooting back. He missed one. They got the rebound, kicked it back to him. I think it was right over here on the wing. Took it again, missed it. I couldn't believe that. I thought for sure, like, okay, he's corrected the shot this time. It's going to go in. Something with this team, and I don't even know where to begin because they're just, from what we saw preseason and what we saw last season with some of these guys who've returned. I mean, Sahvir Wheeler is a better three-point shooter on this stat sheet than Antonio Reeves. He's a better three-point shooter than C.J. Frederick. I mean, what is going on? I mean, when you're looking down on the bench, when Cal looked down one time and Lance came in, and Lance Ware did not play a bad game. Got beat a few times on defense, maybe didn't get some offensive rebounds, turned the ball over once.
Shout out Lance, shout out Duthero, shout out Cason Wallace. That's it. And
Oscar. Yeah. But I think if you're I love Lance Ware. I think he's like I can see him on the bench. Seems like a good teammate. I just think if you're leaning on him to try to fix this could be. I mean, look, I was joking. I was joking earlier. This man here did a half-court shot too.
He's hooping out here.
Yeah,
he made more shots than Kentucky did tonight.
But I was kind of joking with you at halftime. But I said like if we want to spin this into a positive, the positive is Kentucky may now be 3 out of the last 4 years without an NCAA tournament loss. So I mean, I know that sounds like hyperbole. But do we start making that? Does that conversation start happening now, or is it still way too early to start saying we're not going to make the tournament?
It was really glaring, and it just kind of gave me whiplash, to be totally honest. November 1st, I looked up the quote right after the game ended. Cal put out that little video where he stressed patience, and he said this team is not where it needs to be right now. And at the time, everybody was like, oh, he's just, that's coach speak and things like that. But there was like, the timing was just so weird because we had just seen the team dominate the way it did in the Bahamas, and the chemistry at that time seemed so incredible. I basically got one-on-one access to the players all week while we were down there, and every single kid was just like, I love these guys. I love this team. I love the chemistry. And I don't know what happened between August and November 1st, but something led up to that moment on November 1st where Cal had to put out that video and said, we need to be patient with this group. How did we go from as swaggy to, as confident as we were down in the Bahamas, beating teams by 50 points? I don't care about the competition. They couldn't beat a high school team right now by 50 points. I mean, we just saw Florida A&M was the closest thing you're going to get to a high school team, and they only beat them by 20. I don't know what happened this preseason leading up to that November 1st moment that led John Calipari to say, something's not right. We need to hit pause on this. We need to kind of be patient with these guys. And it caught me off guard, and it was a red flag, and we probably should have taken it more seriously at the time.
I papered over it.
But looking back on it right now, it's like, that was a pretty significant sign that he went from that level of just a 180-degree turn from where things were in the Bahamas to November 1st. And unfortunately, it does not look – that's my biggest issue. All the questions that we came in with have not been answered. We are more confused about this team and the offensive identity and the rotation and what is the rotation? Like, what are the lineups? What is you don't know. You couldn't name me what this team's offensive identity is, what their game plan is. You couldn't tell me who plays what position at this point. Like, we're still, we're going into the new year, and we're still trying out guys at different positions.
To have all those guys returning, too, and we're still doing this.
6 returning players.
We're still blaming Oscar Tshiebwe's knee surgery.
That's knee surgery. Oscar Tshiebwe put up 23.
He had a great game.
Stop it. And on that note, Oscar Tshiebwe, every time he touches the ball, he gets swarmed by 3 at minimum, 4 defenders. They collapse, and they know that he struggles as a passer because everybody else on the perimeter doesn't move. There's no back cuts. There's no screens. There's nothing to get other guys open or at least set up easy dump-off passes for easy layups at the rim or quick lobs or dunks or whatever. Nothing comes easy for this team right now. They have a crutch down low, and his name is Oscar Tshiebwe. And yes, a lot of the time it works out. 23 points and 19 rebounds, it works. But that cannot be your only identity. That cannot be your only crutch, because if that's your only crutch, they will kick that crutch out and make him fall to the ground, and nothing else will work on this team.
I just don't understand. Kentucky's basketball staff knows way more about basketball than I do. Here's what I struggle with in watching this team play, is that the force feeding the ball to Oscar when he's triple teamed, quadruple teamed in some cases. And like you said, there's no movement around here on the wing. When they went zone and they packed that zone in, the ball would swing around the perimeter, and actually you would have, Sahvir Wheeler would have a good look at the top of the key, or if you wanted to step in and take like a 16, 17 footer, but that's not really what you want. You don't really want, he was 2 for 3 today shooting the 3, but that's really not the shot you're looking for. So you keep moving the ball around, but again, there's this it's feeding that ball inside to Oscar Tshiebwe. I think the best pass to Oscar is a missed shot. I mean, he gets rebounds, he keeps possessions alive. Look, I know that's how they've won games in the past this season, playing some of the, I forget who they played, but they started going to Oscar in the second half, and he dominated.
Yale was a big one.
Right. I mean, I understand that is a strategy, and in certain cases it might be, but you got to have scores, you got to have shooters.
We said that after the Yale game. We said that worked, and it was spectacular, and it's a very nice thing to have on your team, but you cannot let that become your go-to to the point where that's the only thing you have. You cannot be one-dimensional through Oscar. As you said, Steven, he is at his best when he's a cleanup specialist, not when he is an anchor in the post where a Kofi Coburn, you throw the ball down to him down low and everybody else says, get the hell away, I got this. That's not who Oscar is. He has never been that guy. He was a National Player of the Year because he was a cleanup specialist and on occasion created his own looks in the post. That's not who he is. They have to get away from that, and once they get away from that, they have to have guys on the outside make shots, and CJ Frederick is supposed to be one of those guys. He just dislocated his finger. I don't know what his status is going to be moving forward. That's a big concern.
They had his left hand, I saw it taped up over here, and he came off the floor. I saw him. He was grimacing pretty bad. But I don't know when he came into the game. It was pretty late in the first half, or maybe halfway through. He missed a shot. That's, again, I really thought CJ Frederick was going to be a guy. We did an interview with him early in the season because we did a spotlight on him because you and I and a lot of Kentucky fans assumed he was going to be a big-time contributor on a really good Kentucky team. You might as well have done it on Brendan Canada because CJ Fred, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't get off the bench. Kentucky's they'd hit 1 of 7 threes, and he's still sitting on the bench. He hadn't played yet. And I'm like, I don't know how. I watch his tape from Iowa, and unless his injury from last season is just not completely healed, I'm watching a completely different player when you go watch what he was doing when he was at Iowa and what he has done in at least big games at Kentucky. And that, I don't know how much the pressure is getting to these guys because we talked about it on the way here. They're not having fun. There wasn't anybody on this bench that was having fun. Opening tip, even in warm-ups, they're not. There's just. I get it. It's hard right now.
Do they like each other?
I don't.
Can you genuinely tell me that this team likes each other?
I think there are. I don't want to speculate. Something's got to get fixed. You still have time to have a good season. You do. I will die on the hill that this team is full of talent. Oscar said it. I forget the words he used verbatim, but he said
this is a special team.
Yes.
He said that special was the quote. Right after saying that the team chemistry was not where it needed to be and he needed to get his team together as a group and all of that stuff. But the word special was used by Oscar Tshiebwe.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the stat sheet. I mean, we had, what was that, Cason Wallace taking 13 threes? I mean, hey, why not? Why not? I mean, you know what I mean? Who else was going to score?
You hit 5 of them.
You have one really, really good player on this team. And you have Oscar, who's not Karl Anthony Towns. You're not gonna feed him to a Final Four run. You know what I mean? I don't think. You have one superstar in Cason Wallace. And everybody else, I mean, look, they have not shown us anything against Power 5 competition that would make us believe this is a tournament team.
Tournament team, not title team, not Sweet 16 team, tournament team.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see how Mizzou does the rest of the year. I mean, Kentucky's got do you want to say automatic win still against Louisville? I don't know that, I mean, who knows? And then you got LSU, and LSU is battling with Arkansas. They've held Arkansas to 19 points in the first half, so I can imagine that'll be another grinded out. The thing that is frustrating is they played a slow-down trench warfare game against UCLA and got beat by 10. Today they play an open floor, sped-up game, and they lose by 14. So what style fits Kentucky? I thought this was it.
The way Mizzou played, and when they talked about the grind it out, and like that is when Cal talks about wanting to have a grinded out team. That's what I envision. I envision a run and gun, play with tempo and pace, and run the floor, get shots up, utilize your athleticism and your speed and your shooting and your skill, do all of that stuff, establish a lead, and then grind things out and milk the victory. That makes sense. I totally get that. But to go to combat the style of play that Mizzou came in with a too big Chris Livingston at the 3 lineup, Sahvir at the point guard, where you have no spacing, no shooting, almost no scoring. The team was screwed from the get-go. I mean, UK had one lead today, and it was with 18 minutes, a minute 22 into the game.
I think it was a Cason Wallace 3, right, that gave him that lead?
It was a 1-point lead.
Yeah.
With 18:38 left in the first half.
You know what's funny? I think Kentucky, they shot 2 of 12 from 3 in the first half. I think, is that correct? And then the 1 and 3 they hit was Cason Wallace as the shot clock was at 1. He just kind of threw it up, and it went in. I don't know. I know this atmosphere was cool. It was impressive. It was a good atmosphere.
Cool venue, cool.
Great. The first time I've been here. And this is a really, like you said, cool venue. The atmosphere, 15,000 plus fans. It was packed. They stayed the whole game. There was shooting. They were shooting. Kentucky was like shooting free throws with 3 seconds left. I got video and I looked around and I was like, it's still packed. No one was trying to beat the traffic. Great crowd, great atmosphere. You can say, hey, first road game, forget about this one and move on. Start a new season. I tried that on the way here. Let's start a new season tonight in Missouri. How about let's start a new season in 2023? Let's get out of 2022.
Let's start a new season in 2023, 2024. Just overall. Last thing from me before we have to hit the road and
you want to make it home?
The awfulness that is the drive to Columbia. All of that can just screw itself. I despise the drive. Terrible. Nothing but cornfields and nothingness. Wide open plains for miles and miles and miles. So that's terrible. I want to get home as soon as possible. Just forget this place. Great venue and environment, but the way to get here, terrible. The last thing from me, I sat next to an NBA scout the entire game, and he was absolutely baffled with this team, and he had questions for every single player. What's wrong with Antonio Reeves? What's wrong with CJ Frederick? What's wrong with Damian Collins? Where is Damian Collins? What Cal said after the game, he's the next man up. Whatever that means, because we've heard that for now 4 different players this season, so I don't think that necessarily means anything. At this point, he's extending the rotation to 11 guys. I mean, I think Ugo's going to be the next man up at this point after this game, but the NBA scout was absolutely baffled. He just was like, I went through the entire roster. What's wrong with this kid? Why is this working out? Does this team even like each other? All the questions that the people that know this program and are following this closely, and the fans that are so valid in their criticisms and their questions, to hear it from an NBA scout who does this for a living and travels from venue to venue to venue to venue, finding future NBA talent, for him to have questions about literally everybody on the roster but Cason Wallace was really, really deflating when we came into this season with such high expectations, pro expectations for Jacob Toppin, Damian Collins. Could Oscar start shooting threes and become a first-round pick? Those type of narratives and things like that.
There was a time you remember Cal talking about the platoon system early in the season. It was so deep that there was so much depth in the team. To go from that to an NBA scout who does this for a living, scouting for his future, for his team, for the upcoming draft, and going, why am I even here? Like, is Cason the only guy that Kobe Brown.
Kobe Brown is why he's here. That's you talked about that being an NBA team, NBA player, modern style of basketball. That's who that is. He got more out of him and whatever in all the stuff Cason Wallace showed than anything else.
And it makes me wonder, what would Kobe Brown do at Kentucky? Would it be a Bryce Hopkins situation? Would he have that same kind of freedom to play a 5 but also come out and shoot threes? We hadn't seen that since Josh Harrelson, I felt like I said earlier. And but I would like to, on the way home, you're going to tell me more about this NBA scout. conversation because I feel like there's some good stuff there.
Not good stuff. Unfortunately, not good stuff. We got to hit the road because it's a long one, and there's a lot to vent about, a lot to think about. We're going to have to let this one marinate because I got nothing. Steven, this was a blast.
Yeah.
I wish I could say it was a blast. It was not.
Yeah. L's down.
L's down, I guess. Louisville Hate Week. We only have 2-3 days of it, but whatever. We got to get the heck out of here. KSR out.